Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo trade deadline reaction special. Aaron,
Yo,
the Bills did stuff today. That was kind of
yeah.
fun.
So totally crazy. I really did not anticipate, but I will say I called in the Cover One group DMs that if the Bills were going to do something, it would be at the end of the day. We wouldn't have any idea what was coming, and that is actually what ended up happening. Although moves that were rumored happened, but we didn't see it coming today.
Correct. So two moves that we predicted and put out there as options. And I will say at 3:57, I retweeted my old tweet from like 4 years ago
with
where I
messy
was
hair.
that's with messy hair and no beard.
Yeah.
And just messing around being like, hey, welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast trade reaction. They didn't do anything. Thanks for joining. And like cut it. It was like an 11-second clip. And I retweeted it and be like, well, it happened again. And literally 30 seconds later, this news right here, Adam Schefter tweeted that the Buffalo Bills have acquired Indianapolis Colts running back Nyheim Hines. We'll go over a little bit of that as well. But then just a couple of minutes after that, the Buffalo Bills put out their own PR tweet that nobody else had in the breaking news. They also acquired Dean Marlowe, safety that everybody's familiar with, back from the Atlanta Falcons, and a handful of other transactions that we'll share here. It was just crazy. It all happened within like 6 minutes of each other, and literally at the very, very end of the entire trade deadline, all at once, boom, these things dropped all within moments of each other.
Yeah, and before we talk about the transactions themselves, I think it's really important to talk about how One Bills Drives operates, because the news that we are going to hear, like the interest in Hines, will probably come from other teams or other agents or whatever, whoever's trying to leverage something about that news. It is not coming out of One Bills Drive. Yeah, right. And most of the times you don't even hear about the deals or even that they're even considering these deals. Like Marlowe really was a idea that we had talked about on this show. I know a couple other people had thrown it around in articles and stuff. But you didn't hear the news that they were in on Marlowe at any point here this weekend. And so I think it's just kudos to Brandon Beane, because that's probably really hard to do in a world where you have 40, 50 beat reporters trying to get inside information and other people trying to get into your employees. Like I would think most NFL franchises have a tough time keeping information in, but it doesn't seem to be the case in Buffalo. So kudos to them here before we dig too deep.
A handful of other things here on the screen. Obviously, we knew the activation of Trey White was coming. That's awesome. I think it's pretty cool that they reinstated Xavier Rhodes to the practice squad.
Yeah.
I mean, his initial hamstring injury is good, and that's just good, helpful depth.
Yeah. And people have asked about his maybe availability to transition to safety, right? At the end of it. That's a normal transition for defensive backs.
Great length, the ability to do that. Obviously, we did release Brandon Bryan and Isaiah Hodgins. I would expect tomorrow we will hear that those two got signed back to the practice squad. And Jordan Miller, the cornerback there, because Xavier Rhodes activated, was released off the practice squad.
I honestly forgot that he was on the team. I
messed up because I was thinking it was Justin Miller, the offensive lineman, that they
Murray.
added.
Justin Murray.
You're right.
Yeah.
I just mixed up those two humans and made them one human. So let's talk a little bit first about the smaller deal, and then we'll do the bigger deal. So Dean Marlowe was right there. We talked about, Duron Harmon. We talked about Terrell Edmonds. We talked about Deshaun Elliott. That kind of like fringe, lower level starter, higher level backup. Dean Marlowe's probably a small notch below those guys. I don't think he's on the level of Duron Harmon, Deshaun Elliott, or Terrell Edmonds. They also got him for like a conditional 7th round pick that we weren't going to use. And ultimately, the biggest bonus is he comes in already knowing the system. We have to train him on zero. He comes in knowing what to do, where to be, how the language works, what the calls are. Day one, you add in a guy as though he never left.
Yeah, this was actually my top move for safety. It was something we had talked about on the post-game show with hearing the news about Jordan's injury potentially while we were on the post-game show. Started sort of thinking about it. I saw your thread that you did on safeties, and it's some of the information. I kept coming back to Marlowe because of what you said.
Some of that information, we only take on $575,000. That's all we owe Marlowe for the rest of the year. Super cheap, and it will be about the same as what we save by releasing Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah, this is you're just really acquiring him for nothing. And so I also tweeted out that this not yet, we have no news on Jordan Poyer's MRI results. We haven't heard anything yet as of this video going out, but this is not indicative of whether or not he's healthy. I think this is that, hey, we've seen Jordan go down a couple times of what happens when that happens. And so we have to at least have something that we trust. You got a guy that you've trusted in your system. You've been to battle with these coaches, with players in this back seven. All of this is huge. He plays special teams as well. And he can play nickel. He's got versatility to play nickel. So in those dime looks that you've been asking for, Greg, I'd much rather see Marlowe than Saran Neal. So it's an upgrade from that standpoint, from depth. And if something's wrong with Jordan here and he needs a couple weeks, I'd feel a lot better about Marlowe than Jaquan Johnson right now.
I was just going to say, so for me, he slots in between DeMar Hamlin and Jaquan Johnson. I think Dean Marlowe slots in as our new third safety if Poe is good. And let's say
coaches might feel more comfortable with him over Hamlin. I don't know. I can't say for certain right now. I like how Hamlin's played, but I don't know.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy that Dean Marlowe could come in and be that guy. I think we're obviously hopeful that Jordan Poyer is going to be healthy and going to be back. I think that it's very reasonable. He may need a little bit of a stretch here to make sure he's right. And honestly, if that stretch needs to come against the Jets and some of the upcoming opponents, heck, if we need to give him 4 weeks on the IR just to totally get right, but then he comes back and gives us a 6-week stretch before the playoffs, I'm good rolling DeMar Hamlin and Jordan Poyer and Dean Marlowe in our upcoming stretch here. I think that we're in a really good space to be able to afford to do that, and he helps us with that flexibility. So in my opinion, he slots in between Hamlin and Johnson, but it's not crazy that he could even be that Band-Aid next to Poyer if we need.
Totally, but it's not the sexy move of the day. Correct. And so we got to talk about Nyheim Hines, because this was one that I honestly, when the rumors came out in terms of the running backs available, I just didn't love the move, because I just see James Cook in that role. But as sort of we've seen highlights of him and digging into this trade a little bit more, I'm growing in this move, and I'm interested to see how the Bills intend to use him, because you had messaged, and I'll let you kind of say it, I'm not sure that this is a move that's indicative of taking James Cook off the field necessarily.
Yeah, I think this is a move. I kind of think this is a shot at our man Isaiah McKenzie. Nyheim Hines is a punt returner. He's a kick returner. He's a gadget guy. He catches screens. He takes jet sweeps. You know, he lined up for the Colts out wide as a full-on slot receiver, you know, another like 27 snaps out wide, 11 more snaps. You know,
for his career, he's 12% in the slot, 14.8% out wide. So that's what are you do math?
27%,
27, almost 30% total of playing receiver. That's real.
Yeah. So that kind of flexibility, plus being a kick returner, plus being a punt returner. I will say he probably is a little bit of a reduction in James Cook snaps, because he's also a phenomenal receiving back. And I know you got a good tidbit on how good of a receiving back he's been.
Yeah, so our guy Adam Sharpened Pencil on Twitter. I'm not going to spell it out for you. I'll put it in the show notes. It's not actually Sharpened Pencil. He does it in a really funny way. But he looks like he's our new data guy here at Cover One. Big shout out to him. And he got right into the DVOA and found and put in the chat that Hines is 8th in DVOA amongst receiving. 8th ranked back in DVOA in receiving among qualified backs, and Christian McCaffrey is 9th. Just to put that into perspective for Bills
even
fans,
a notch ahead of Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, and we love DVOA here. And I don't have time to explain in this video, go look it up. It matters. And Hines being there, I think, is important, because this is what the Bills were looking at for McKissick and by drafting Cook. And now they're kind of giving themselves insurance that they're getting that, right?
Yeah. Also a strong pass blocker. He's good in pass protection, good in the return game, ability to make an impact there. It's just something that we've seen continued contributions.
And we're not saying it's a CMC.
No.
Upgrade, just that the Bills are looking for that receiving type back, and he is clearly in that mold.
He is very much on the tier of J.D. McKissick, the guy we went after free agency.
Last thing before we get out of here, Greg, I want to ask you, because I've had people blowing up my mentions about this, that this means Singletary is going to walk next year, and it's going to be Hines and Cook as the main backs, because they're not going to have money to do this. I don't see. I think Cook or Singletary is going to keep coming back. You?
I'm not ready to say that this means he's definitely gone. I would say it certainly gives them an option that if they can't come to an agreement on a contract with Devin Singletary, that this could be the reason that he goes. I don't think it's as direct of a correlation as people are saying that, oh, it automatically means he's out.
Yeah. Well, this was good stuff, man. Good day for the best team in the NFL. You got better. You swapped out Moss for Hines. That's a win.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you checking out our trade deadline reaction. Make sure you're checking out all the other shows, but you have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.